Hey, you know what? We can start now, David.
Okay, I was just texting Amit whether he's joining or not. Okay, hello everyone. I'm David Park, a clinical instructor in the Department of Neurosurgery at Stanford University, primarily working with Dr. Stephen Chang. And once again, thank you, Dr. Chang, for inviting me to speak today. Last meeting 3 months ago, our brilliant fellow, Dr. Prasad, gave a wonderful talk on surgical approaches for trigeminal neuralgia, which is already uploaded in Dr. Chang's YouTube channel. Today, so I'll be focusing solely on the stereotactic radiosurgery as a management option for trigeminal neuralgia. I will begin with an overview of stereotactic radiosurgery, I would say SRS, including its concept and a brief history. Then I'll compare the different platforms, Gamma Knife, CyberKnife, and Zap, um, in a bit of detail, supported by some video clips. This part could be a bit extensive, as it addresses one of the most frequently asked questions in the clinic. Although I may look like I have some disclosure while I talk about these radiosurgery platforms, I currently don't have any disclosure at this point. Um, And then finally, I'll focus specifically on SRS for trigeminal neuralgia, which will be our main topic today. So let's begin by understanding what stereotactic radiosurgery is. Here's a meme I saved from Instagram, criticizing how other surgeons may view radiation. And of course, this isn't true. So when you break down the term stereotactic radiosurgery, stereotactic means positioning the target lesion in a three-dimensional box with XYZ coordinates, allowing the computer to accurately aim the beam to the target. Radiosurgery can be now divided into radio, referring to radiation beams like X-rays, gamma rays, and protons, which are like short wavelengths beams used for treatment, and surgery indicating a single precise and accurate treatment. So basically, this term was intentionally used to distinguish radiosurgery from distinguish from radiotherapy, um, emphasizing sharper and highly focused treatment. An easy way to differentiate between the two is by the number of sessions. So typically, like radiotherapy spans several weeks to months, whereas radiosurgery usually involves a single day to up to just 5 days of treatment. So to better understand the difference between conventional radiotherapy and radiosurgery, I would think of sunshine as radiotherapy. Now, imagine using a magnifying glass. So this represents radiosurgery. You might recall playing with a magnifying glass as a child, concentrating sunlight onto a single point to ignite a fire. Here's another video clip that I found on Instagram. It perfectly illustrates the power of focusing on one spot. So by concentrating normal sunlight on a single point, you can even create a lesion in a rock like this instantly, which is amazing. So for various pathologies, this SRS technology can be used to kill tumor cells, create lesions, or potentially stimulate specific areas. These are the key milestones in the history of stereotactic radiosurgery. And yeah, we definitely cannot talk about SRS without mentioning Dr. Lars Leksell, a Swedish neurosurgeon who invented the concept of stereotactic radiosurgery in the 1950s. He was passionate about various minimally invasive neurosurgical techniques, including the stereotactic frame he invented, which you can see on the left side. Um, Eventually, he wanted to use non-invasive radiation beams instead of sharp mechanical like instruments. He tried various radiation sources, including X-rays from the linear accelerator, but ultimately chose gamma rays based on the existing technology in the past at that point. This led to the invention of the gamma knife, which was first used on a human patient in 1968. When we also talk about SRS, we also must mention the linear accelerator, which uses X-rays. This technology, like I would say LINAC, this technology was invented long before the gamma knife. Linear accelerator, LINAC, operate by accelerating electrons to nearly the speed of light and directing these electron beams at a heavy metal alloy like tungsten. The resulting X-ray are then collimated and focused onto a target. As I mentioned earlier, Dr. Lexell also experimented with LINAC, but abandoned it mainly because of the lower photon energy and mechanical inaccuracy at that point, at that time, not in the past. So Stanford cannot be excluded when discussing the history of LINAC. So Dr. Kaplan, who's like our first chair of radiation oncology department at Stanford, and Dr. Ginston at Stanford were the first to use LINAC in the medical field in 1952. But this was used as radiotherapy, as you can see on the right side, not radiosurgery at that time. In 1962, Stanford built this Stanford Linear Accelerator Center called SLAC, which you can easily find from high up in the sky like this. And this is what it looks like inside. So, and as you can see clearly at this scale, it is not intended for medical purpose. This LINAC was adapted for SRS, not by Stanford, but by Betty and Colombo in Argentina and Italy in 1982. And but Dr. John Adler brought the honor back to Stanford by inventing the CyberKnife. So back in 1985, during his fellowship with Dr. Lexell, he saw an opportunity to expand the gamma knife to other part of the body, and I'll talk more about this detail later. And also he had a vision of treating without using the stereotactic frame. He teamed up with a group of engineers at Stanford using a LINAC and using thermoplastic mask, robotic arms, and diagonal X-ray real-time tracking system to build the CyberKnife. The first patient was treated in 1994, and I'll go through more details later. 20 years after the first treatment with CyberKnife, in 2014, Dr. Adler founded another radiosurgery company called ZAB Surgical Systems to expand the usage of stereotactic radiosurgery. So, and I honestly believe that ZAB will enable the distribution of radiosurgery care worldwide. So let's dig in more into each platform, Gamma Knife, CyberKnife, and ZAB. So the Gamma Knife contains a total of 192 cobalt resources, each with a window to deliver gamma rays to the target. So the beams are set to focus on one point in the middle of the hemisphere, and the couch moves to ensure the beams are delivered precisely to the target. And to securely fix the target, the head frame with 4 metal bars is screwed into the patient's skull bone, and the frame is then fixed to the couch of the machine. And this is what the inside of the machine looks like, and you can see all like 192 cobalt-60 radiation sources, the isotopes in the image on the left. And the cross section looks like this, and yeah. So the Gamma Knife has a total of 8 movable sectors in an octagon shape. So each of 24 cobalt sources in 8 movable sectors. By moving a sector, the corresponding set of sources is aligned with a specific size collimator, and it has 4, 8, and 16 millimeter collimators, resulting in a spheric shots of in those size. So this video will help you understand. As you can see, these sectors, 8 sectors, are moving and to align with the radiation source, and each of them have like different size of collimators. So, and this is the software, you know, this is what the software called Gamma Plan looks like. So you first contour the target and organs at risk in 2D, slice by slice, which will accumulate and form a 3D model. And by adjusting this part, the setting for these 8 sectors, you can easily change the size of the collimators, and you can basically shape the shots in 3 dimensions. This is really user-friendly software. So the Gamma Knife is it is a truly amazing radiosurgery platform. There's no doubt on that. However, it does have some limitations. First, it requires cobalt-60, a naturally radioactive resource, which has a half-time of 5 years. So it is recommended to replace it every 5 years. Otherwise, the treatment duration doubles, which is not ideal for patients and of course for the hospital as well. Additionally, because cobalt-60 is a potential weaponizable isotope, so because of that reason, replacing it requires extensive security measures, including like forces like, you know, SWAT team, snipers on standby, and even you may need to close down the street to ensure like safe delivery and replacement every 5 years. The second limitation is many people consider the head frame as a significant disadvantage of the Gamma Knife. However, this is no longer true. The new version of Gamma Knife called Icon uses a thermoplastic mask. But instead, I would like to emphasize that the tracking system is different. So it uses an infrared camera and reference markers placed on the tip of the nose of the patient and 2 sides on near both shoulders. So if there's any movement over 0.1 millimeter, the whole system stops for safety concern. And then the treatment must be restarted from that point after validation. So, and yeah, this tracking system is the biggest difference between this LINAC-based platforms and Gamma Knife, I would say. The CyberKnife is based on LINAC, linear accelerator. And this is the LINAC machine called TrueBeam. This is not CyberKnife, which is from Varian. And this is the CyberKnife. So before talking about CyberKnife, let me show you how this LINAC, the TrueBeam, works. So this is also a radiosurgery platform, and as you can see, it spins in specific directions that you choose. And by shaping the shots with the collimator called MLC, you can see like multi-leaf collimator. This can generate pretty sharp targeting with a steep fall off of the radiation dose. However, compared to the Gamma Knife or CyberKnife, the dose delivered to the normal surrounding tissue is generally a bit higher. Before showing the CyberKnife, I would like to explain the tracking system of the LINAC-based system. So for each shot, just before it's delivered, the system checks low voltage X-rays from diagonal direction, which you can see in the blue light. We call it KV, and compares them with the DRR, the baseline image of the bony structures. So by automatically matching these images, these systems can perform real-time tracking for individual shots. So for that reason, they can actually treat the lesions in the lung or abdomen while the patient is breathing. And so it will be fluctuating, right? And this is a video. This is what the CyberKnife looks like. Basically, the patient can come in, with the street clothes without any lines and just lie down on the couch with a personalized pre-made thermoplastic mask. From various angles, as pre-planned by our multidisciplinary team consisting of neurosurgeons, radiation oncologists, and physicists, the robotic arm will check the KV for real-time tracking. So you can see, the real-time tracking in blue light here, and shoot the X-ray beam to the target. And it has several types of collimators that can be that we can use to make the treatment plan more efficient and safe, and which includes multi-leaf collimator, as you can see here. We call it MLC. So in summary, the Gamma Knife has 192, approximately 200 angles of shots, and a longer history with more publications proving its efficacy and safety. However, it has the limitation of using cobalt-60, a natural radioactive isotope, which requires replacement every 5 years. It is also limited to treating lesions only in the brain or upper cervical area up to normally C2 to C3. In comparison, the CyberKnife has many more angles of shots and is cobalt-free, has the same targeting accuracy as the Gamma Knife, and also can treat the whole body. It also features real-time imaging tracking, making the treatment safer and more effective in terms of workflow. Now this is ZAP. The biggest advantage of ZAP is that it doesn't require a huge vault to install, and which making it much cheaper and less limited in terms of installation. You can imagine it as a LINAC-based system merged into a spheric-shaped machine, similar in appearance to the Gamma Knife. So this is how it works. So as you can see, the video looks cool, right? The machine itself acts as a vault like this, and it uses LINAC with various size of collimators. And employs the same KVDRR tracking system. And the couch moves slightly to generate more treatment angles. And using axial and oblique axis rotation, like a gyroscope, it can generate over 260 angles of shots. Yeah, you can see like this. And it also provides real-time beam dosimetry data, which is not available with either the Gamma Knife or CyberKnife. Since it doesn't require a vault, it doesn't have to be placed in the basement of the building, and can look much better, as you can see here. Now let me go over some key concepts in SRS. So I wanted to bring up the operative report to show what you may want to know to better understand the SRS treatment. So these are the numeric data that can help you understand the treatment. So imagine there's a target like this, and we manually contour the target precisely and use AI-based software to generate multiple shot plans to deliver the beams focus on the specific target. And by doing so, it will create this kind of a bell-shaped radiation dose curve. And this generates an isodose line covering the whole target like this, which will be the marginal dose, also known as a prescription dose. Based on the maximum dose, which will be the 100%, we can check the percentage of the isodose line. And typically, we plan to prescribe 50% to 95% for the isodose line, aiming for the steepest fall off, which will be near 50%, right? This ensures a lower dose of radiation is delivered to the surrounding normal structure, enabling safe treatment. At the same time, we also need to limit the maximum dose. For that reason, the isodose line vary from like 50 to 95%. If the maximum dose is too high, then there's a higher chance of inducing radiation effect, causing swelling of the brain. And for coverage, you'll easily understand what coverage means. Mostly, we try to reach 100%, but sometimes if the shape of the target is too irregular and some part protruding to one direction, then we may not be able to reach 100%. Conformity index describes how much normal tissue is included in the marginal dose. So the conformity index of 1.0 represent a perfect plan, but which is almost impossible unless it's really like spheric shape. If the index gets higher, it means more normal tissue is included in the marginal dose. Therefore, it's better and safer to aim for a conformity index closer to 1.0 if possible. I'm sorry it took so long to get here, but I thought many of you would want to understand the background of SRS. So I took some time for that overview. And now let's talk about SRS for trigeminal neuralgia. So before we get into more details, I would like to highlight the trend of the last 2 decades. This is an article published 3 years ago by our group, Stanford, reporting our experience on 7,000 patients over 2 decades with diverse pathologies. And just focusing on the number of cases and percentage of patients for trigeminal neuralgia, there has been an increase in the number of patients treated with CyberKnife over the recent 2 decades. However, the proportion has decreased over time, indicating that the total number of surgically treated patients increased significantly more than those treated with CyberKnife. So as presented last time by Dr. Prasad, it is quite clear that surgery, talking about microvascular decompression, remains the gold standard treatment for trigeminal neuralgia. However, CyberKnife has been well chosen for those patients who failed surgery or recurred after surgery or are not applicable for surgery, etc. So essentially, it serves as a truly useful second option for patients with trigeminal neuralgia. Based on the literature review, pain control was achieved in 70 to about like 98% of patients, with the highest reported complication being facial numbness. As mentioned earlier, trigeminal neuralgia was the earliest indication for both Gamma Knife and CyberKnife. And normally, the radiation dose for lesioning, meaning targeting the normal tissue, requires much higher dose than for tumors. So it is crucial to note that the extreme danger of using ablative dose where the dose is too high, or using too many shots in such a small target to reach that high dose, or where the shots are too large. So, and this is really good point here. The mechanism of pain relief from SRS is still unclear, but several theories exist. The most widely accepted theory, which I marked with this red square, is that the high dose of radiation causes damage to the nerve fibers, disrupting the transmission of pain signals, which lead to, to a reduction or elimination of severe facial pain. Basically, the trigeminal nerve consists of different types of nerve fibers, primarily A alpha and A beta fibers associated with light touch and pressure, and A delta fibers associated with sharp pain, and C fibers associated with dull, burning or aching type of pain. So SRS tends to preferentially damage the A delta and C fibers more than the A alpha or A beta fibers. So this is believed to be due to difference in the structure and function of these fibers, making the pain transmitting fibers more susceptible to radiation. However, because it cannot always be perfectly selective, it cannot be like just cutting off A delta and C fibers only. I think I was disconnected, right?
I believe so. You,
Okay.
you are at the mechanism of pain relief.
Yep. Can you see my screen? No, it's taking a bit more time, right? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, I was talking about this A alpha, beta, delta, and C fibers, and I told that it always cannot be like perfectly selective. So we want to just cut off like damage A delta and C fibers, which controls the sharp pain and dull like achy or burning type of pain. But if there's any damage to A alpha or A beta fibers, which is associated with light touch, then the patients may have facial numbness related to that. And the recurrence of pain may happen because of your body's self-healing process. And attempting, basically your body tries to attempt to heal or reconnect the damaged pain fibers over time. And when this healing process overacts or heals incorrectly, connecting other fibers or like messing up in there, then it may induce abnormal pain sensation, which is a condition called known as anesthesia dolorosa, which is a rare complication of SRS treatment. Yeah. So normally it is recommended to use only one isocenter with a maximum dose of 60 to 90 gray, targeting the nerve with the smallest collimator, such as 4 millimeter for Gamma knife and 5 millimeter for CyberKnife. These are representative dosimetric plans for both Gamma knife and CyberKnife. Gamma knife center typically, I mean, it's just like there's always a different type of protocols, but they typically use a 50% isodose line targeting the root entry zone with a 4 millimeter single isocentric spherical shot, resulting in a maximum dose of 86 gray to the center of the target. In contrast, CyberKnife centers typically deliver 60%, 60 gray to the 80% isodose line, resulting in a maximum dose of 75 gray. and the contour is a bit different. So instead of just putting one single isocentric shot to the root entry zone, for cyberknife centers, we normally contour the cisternal segment of the trigeminal nerve, which is located between the brainstem and the skull base. So this is a systematic review article published in 2019, which included a total of 65 studies from various centers using Gamma knives, Linux systems, or CyberKnife. And the figure on the left shows the difference in contours for targeting for each SRS platform that I briefly mentioned earlier. You can simply think of the green circular contour, like the green circular line, as typically representing the contour used for Gamma knife. Most likely it will be located between the figure B and C. It will be somewhere here. The root entry zone, I meant. And the light blue line can be the contour of the cisternal segment of the trigeminal nerve, which is the target for CyberKnife. The range of outcomes varied significantly, but based on the mean value, all SRS platforms showed around 50 to 60% of pain relief and 20 to 30% of incidence of numbness and the 20 to 30% chance of recurrence. However, outcomes varied widely between centers. So, and for this review, within this article, two articles were from our Stanford group. And the most recent one was written by Dr. Adler in 2009, which included a total of 46 patients and showed 96% freedom from pain with medication and 72% freedom from pain without medication. It showed an overall 15% incidence of significant facial numbness on the same side as the pain. Currently, our research team is collecting a large-scale retrospective data set from our single institution to analyze long-term outcomes and trends in dosimetric plans over time and many other relevant factors. Now, I would like to share some upcoming studies on similar pain disorders. Quite often, trigeminal neuralgia and other headache syndromes are not easy to differentiate just based on clinical findings. Many types of headaches, such as migraines or cluster headaches, can sometimes be misdiagnosed as well. And several studies focused on the radiosurgical treatment for these other types of headache mimicking trigeminal neuralgia. This is a case report from our group published in 2007, presenting a preliminary case study on a patient with medically refractory cluster headache treated with CyberKnife. The patient experienced left side severe stabbing and burning type of headache, often associated with tearing and rhinorrhea, which occurred every morning. And instead of targeting the trigeminal nerve, we performed 2 trials of pterygopalatine nerve block. Just as a FYI, the pterygopalatine ganglion, also known as a sphenopalatine ganglion, is a nerve bundle, cluster of nerve bundles located near the trigeminal nerve that helps control tear production, nasal secretion, and facial pain as well. The 2 trial nerve blocks to the sphenopalatine ganglion resulted in complete relief of the patient's headache for a 24-hour period. For that reason, we consider this target as a culprit of his pain and treat it with CyberKnife, which resulted in good pain relief for at least a year. So based on this past case report, we are planning to run a phase 1 pilot trial in the near future. This trial will target the sphenopalatine ganglion with CyberKnife for selected patients who basically experience temporary pain relief from this sphenopalatine nerve block. which is leading to a diagnosis of spondylopalatine neuralgia. It is currently in the ideation or planning stage, but hopefully we can provide this trial for selected patients who can have persistent facial pain even after surgical or radiosurgical treatment targeting the trigeminal nerve. So basically, like who were misdiagnosed as a trigeminal neuralgia, and who could be potentially the patients with spondylopalatine neuralgia. And thank you for listening. And let's now move on to the Q&A session. How can I see? I'll stop. Should I stop sharing or?
Yeah, if there's any questions, you can enter the questions in the Q&A box.
No questions so far.
You covered a lot tonight.
Okay, and any questions from the audience so far? If not, then maybe I should just end
Yeah,
today.
you can just nice.
Oh, one question. Oh, Amit is here. Okay.
Thank you for joining, Amit. I think we can call it a night.
Okay, thank you. Have a
Thanks.
good